What's up, folks? I'm Dwayne.
I'm Alicia.
And this is Blackboard Gaming, where we teach you about all these great board games that are out there,
waiting to be played by you and yours.
I'm a simple man, don't wanna complicate you.
Hey, everybody!
Today, we're going to talk about a game that I was excited to get into the collection.
Honestly, this is literally the heaviest game I have played. We're going to talk about Foundations of Rome.
Foundations of Rome is a game designed by Emerson Masucci and published by Arcane Wonders.
Let's go to the table for an overview of how this game is played.
Foundations of Rome is an economic city building game for 2 to 5 players, where the players take on the roles of architects who are building up the magnificent structures of Rome. To set up the game, we will place the city board out into the middle of the table in reach of all players. If we were setting up for a 4 to 5 player game, we would place the city board on the side that has more lots. If we were setting up for a 2 to 3 player game, we would place the city board on the side that has fewer lots. We're going to talk about the 2-player setup in this overview. We would then place the deed board and the scoreboard nearby. Each player will choose their player color, and they will receive a tray that corresponds with that color. And that tray holds all their buildings, their lot markers, and then up here there's a spot for their monument markers, which I'll talk about the monuments a little bit later. Each player is also going to get 2 cubes of their matching color, and they're going to place those cubes out onto the scoreboard, one on the victory point tracker and one on the population tracker. Then we're going to randomly choose a start player who's going to get this first player token, and then the start player is going to get 5 silver from the bank. And the money in this game is in denominations of 3s and 1s. And then each player in clockwise order is going to get 1 more silver than the previous player. So the second player is going to get 6 silver. And if this was a 3-player game, the third player would get 7 silver. Next, we're going to take the deed cards and remove a number of them based on the number of players. So the 5th player pieces and cards for this game are sold separately. So in a 4-player game, we would use all the deed cards and shuffle them up. If we were setting up for a 3-player game, we'll remove all the cards that have the purple. We're setting up for a 2-player game. We are on the 2-3-player side, so we'll remove the purple and these blue cards. And you see these blue cards correspond to these numbers on the outside of the board. So in a 2-player game, we're just going to be using this 7x7 grid. Once those cards are removed, we're going to take the rest of the deed cards, give them a good shuffle, and deal out 6 to each player. And then each player is going to look at their deed cards, and they're going to place their lot markers out onto the corresponding spots on the city board. So this is how the city board would look after each player has placed out their lot markers corresponding to the cards that they drew. And they have 6 of them out onto the board. They started the game with 8, so they would have 2 left over on their player tray. We would then take the rest of the deed cards and split them into roughly 3 stacks and place them in these 3 different eras. One in era 1, one in era 2, and one in era 3. And then we will reveal 6 cards off the top of era 1 and place them face up to form a market. Once that's done, we can start the game. So, in Foundations of Rome, you're trying to build up Rome. And the game is going to last 3 eras. And at the end of era 3, we will count up the victory points, and whoever has the most will win. So, starting with the start player, they can do one of 3 things on their turn. They can buy a deed, they can build a building, or they can earn income. To buy a deed, the player just simply picks a deed that they want to buy from the face of display, pay that money above it, and they get that deed. So, player 1, the first player decides he wants E2, so he takes silver, returning it to the bank, and then he grabs this deed. And then these deeds will just slide over, getting cheaper, and will reveal a new one off the Era 1 deck. Then the red player will find E2 out onto the city board and take one of his lot markers and place it there to show that he owns that. And then he will take this deed card and place it with the rest of the deed cards that he got at the beginning of the game. Now, the deed cards are kept in your play area just to verify that you own that lot, to make sure you're placing your lot tokens in the right places. They do nothing else for you. Now, you've bought a deed. Now, the second thing you can do is you can construct a building out onto the city board. So before we construct a building, let's go over what types of buildings you have in your player tray. There are 3 types of buildings that you can construct out on the city board. Over here, you got your commercial buildings. And these are ways you can earn silver throughout the game. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Over here, you got your residential buildings. And this is how you would get population and move your cube up on that population track. And that's another way to score victory points. Up here, you got your civic buildings. And these buildings score based on adjacency. So if I had this one here, this scores 1 victory point per building orthogonally adjacent to it. This one scores 1 victory point per population that in buildings that are orthogonally adjacent. So let's say this building was next to this building out on the board, then this building will score me 6 points because this has 6 population. This one over here will score me 2 points per coin produced in orthogonally adjacent buildings. So let's say this building was next to this building out on the board, then this would score me 2 points, 2 per silver. That building has 3 silver on it. So like I said, the red player wants to construct a building on his next turn. So when constructing buildings, you can only construct on building lots that you own. So red player owns these 2 lots here. So he decides as his second turn, he's going to remove these lot tokens, returning them to his player tray. And he's going to construct this commercial building. This is a pottery studio. And he's going to place that there. So now this commercial building is going to earn him extra silver whenever he decides to do the take income action on his turn. So let's say on his next turn, he decides to take income action. Whenever you take income, you get 5 silver automatically, plus any silver that is produced on your commercial buildings out on the board. So this pottery studio is going to produce him 1 silver, so he's going to get 5 plus 1 or 6 silver on his turn. Now, is this building a permanent fixture out onto the city board? No, it's not. So let's say later on in the game, the red player has bought lot E3 and lot E4. So he decides he wants to construct a building. He can actually take this building off the board and construct over it as long as the building that he's constructing is larger than that building. So he can take this building off, return it to his player tray, remove these, and then he takes this big building. So now when he's earning income, he gets 5 plus 3. So he's going to get 8 income on his turn. So players are going to continue buying deeds, constructing buildings, and earning income until all the cards in Era 1 are gone and the last deed has been purchased from the face-up display. Then each player, including the player that purchased that last deed, will get one more turn to either collect income or build, and then we will go into end of era scoring, which is explained right here. Let's say this is how the city board looks at the end of the first era. In end of era scoring, the first thing the players will do is receive silver based on their commercial buildings that are out on the board. So purple player has this building that gives 2 silver, has this one that gives 1 silver, so that's 3 silver for the purple player. The red player also has this building that gives them 3 silver, so they're also going to get 3 silver from the bank. Then we're going to score victory points that are visible on their player tray. So purple player has 3 victory points coming to them. Then we're going to score off our civic buildings. So let's look at purple player. He has this 1 civic building that gives him 1 victory point per 2 population. Red player has this residential building that has 2, and purple player has a residential that has 4. So this building is going to score purple player 3 points. Over here, the red player has a civic building that's give them 2 victory points per coin produced from commercial buildings. He has this one that produces 3. This purple player has one that produces 1. So the red player is going to get 8 points from that. Then we're going to score based on population. So if you look at the score track, red has 2 population, purple has 4 population. You have to have at least 1 population in order to score. So red player is going to score victory points based on the person that's in front of them. So purple player has 4, so red player is going to get 4 victory points. Purple player is going to get 4 victory points plus bonus points depending on the era. So in era 1, they're going to get 4 victory point bonus points. Whoever's in the lead in era 2 gets 7 bonus victory points. Whoever's in the lead in era 3 gets 10 bonus victory points. Then once the victory points have been counted up, then we will move on to second era, and we will reveal 6 cards off the era 2 deck, and then the players can continue buying deeds, constructing buildings, and earning income. Once all the cards are gone from the era 3 deck and there are no more cards in the face-up display, then all the players will get 1 more turn, and then we would do in-game scoring, which is pretty much the same as end of era scoring, but there are 2 differences. Instead of gaining silver from your commercial buildings out on the city board, you would gain victory points equal to the amount of silver you would have gained. Also, if you have any of these lot tokens still out on the board, you will get 1 victory point for each of those. All the rest of the victory points will be calculated the regular way. All the visible victory points out on your player tray, and you will score your civic buildings for adjacency, and then you will calculate the population and get the victory points from that. And then once all those have been calculated, then whoever has the most points will be the winner of Foundations of Rome. Now, before we tell you our thoughts on the game, I have to point out the monuments that come in the monument expansion. Look at how detailed these monuments are. So when playing with the monument expansion, each of the monuments comes with a card that shows the requirements or the requirements you gotta have in order to build it. And you will reveal cards equal to the number of players plus 3. So in a 2-player game, you will reveal 5 of those cards. And if you meet the requirements and you have the real estate, you can build one of these monuments. Like back here, you got the Colosseum. Look at that. You know, look at this statue right here. I think this is called the Temple of Romulus or whatever, or Statue of Romulus rather. And that's where these monument tokens come in. So when you build one of these, you place these monument tokens on top of it to show that you own that monument. And I think, I can't see not playing with these because it does add a little bit more complexity, and it also adds to the beauty of the city board when you're done with the game. So, do you think the theme comes through in this game?
Well, obviously, for somebody like me, Foundations of Rome is a theme that appeals to me. But the gameplay itself doesn't evoke the theme. However, when you look at the finished product after all the players have taken their turns, there's no way you can't see the theme. There's no way you can look at the finished product and not see ancient Rome.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, because pretty much this is just an abstract game.
yes.
But the components, those miniature buildings,
They just take it to a whole nother level of sophistication.
yeah. So I have to say that's where the theme shines through.
That's where
You
the
know,
theme shines through. And that is honestly, to me, what makes this game impressive.
Yeah.
It's table presence.
Yep. So, well, I guess we pretty much already talked about components. I am kind of kicking myself that, when I got this game, I didn't get the, you got the cardboard coins in the game. And now I'm like, man, I should have got those real coins.
Yeah.
Because that just adds on to the presentation of this game.
Yes, the cardboard coins just don't do it.
Yeah, they don't do
Justice.
it.
They don't do it justice, no.
It's kind of like a letdown in a way.
Yes, yes.
All right, so pretty much we already touched on components.
Well, the first player token is pretty impressive too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, because in the Kickstarter, in the video, I showed you the regular first player token, but in the Kickstarter, they got this little metal statue that's just really, really beautiful. So, what do you think about the art?
Well, there's really not a lot of art in the game, but the box cover looks really sweet.
Yeah, that box cover
Yes.
looks really nice. I do like the art in
Yes,
that
yes.
on the box cover.
Yes.
But other than that, there really is no art. It's all about those miniatures.
It's all about those miniatures.
So, did you enjoy the mechanics?
Yes, it is a tile laying game.
An elaborate tile laying game.
Elaborate tile laying game. And it has a bit of economics, so I like the mechanics. I think the combination of mechanics lends just the right level of complexity to the game.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're going out, you're buying up this real estate out on the board, and then you place your buildings
Strategically.
Yeah, strategically where they're going to earn you points.
Yes.
And I like the fact that when you put the buildings out on the board, they're not permanently there.
Yes, you could.
You can overbuild.
You can upgrade.
Yeah, you can upgrade those buildings.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. And it's always you're just being strategic about your placement.
Yes.
All right. So what do you think about the teach?
Okay. So, this game takes a little bit of, like, as far as how you place your pieces and your buildings, that's pretty elementary. However, the icons, like, what does this building do? What does this building do? I know I'm getting on his nerves, but every time I'm like, okay, now what does this building do? And what does this? There's a lot of iconography that you have to be aware of to really play strategically. So for that reason, even though it's not a heavy Euro game, I don't think it's an entry-level game either.
I don't know. I beg to differ.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of iconography.
Iconography.
That's the word. It's not iconography. It's just more like reminding yourself how do you score points off this building?
Okay.
How do you score points off that building? And I think you get that with more plays.
Okay. For me, that was a bit of the challenge.
Yeah, because this is your a first impressions for you. We played it twice? Now I played it 4 times. and I played it at a higher player count, and I really enjoy it. And I think teaching this game to somebody, I would consider this a entry level game, but at the same time, because of the price, I wouldn't consider this an entry level game.
Okay.
Because you're pretty much, it's like, what do they call it? Death to complexity. Like, I think that's the phrase.
For the amount of money that you're spending, it's not deep enough.
No. What I mean by death to complexity is what you're doing. All you're doing on your turn is you are buying a lot, a deed, and you are constructing a building, or you're earning income. So those are the only things. They're very simple. But why you're placing that building there, or why are you buying this lot? You might be buying this lot to make sure that somebody doesn't build that bigger building. You see that and you're like, nope, I'm gonna buy that lot, or I'm gonna buy that lot because they're going to build this building, so I'm gonna place a building to score off of their building. And I mean, that's where the complexity comes in. You're trying to, especially if you put the monuments. And you haven't played with the monuments. I have, and I think this game, you could teach it, very easily. It's an easy game to teach, but just figuring out what's the other game? Remember Land versus Sea? You're just placing tiles. That's all you're doing, but the complexity of trying to block off your land masses and your sea.
The complexity is deciding where to place the tiles.
Exactly. So I think that's what I like about this game.
I can agree with that. So here's the thing. I love the game. It's visually, the table presence is so impressive. And I like the theme, Foundations of Rome. But for me personally, the scoring is just so convoluted.
You think so?
Yes, I do.
Well, that's why I do the scoring. That's why I do the scoring, So, but I'm glad you enjoyed the game, and like I said, through more plays, I think you'll be like, okay, I get why I'm placing that. Because in our last game, you over-constructed one building, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was a great move. It does have a chess-like feel to it, of where you placing the buildings. So I think, I was like, oh, she's getting it. She's starting to get it. All right. So, overall, what did you think about Foundations of Rome?
I like Foundations of Rome. I'm going to respectfully disagree about, I agree. It's an easy game to learn as far as you only have 3 moves. But playing strategically, it's on a higher level than entry level to me. So I don't think it's entry level, but I think it's engaging. I think it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I think it requires thinking, but it's not a brain burner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with. I don't think, and I see what you mean by that. I don't think that it's an entry level because of price point. This is not a game that you'll be like, oh, I love that game. Let me go back. What do you mean it costs that much?
So let me qualify, because I think he and I have different ideas about entry level. To me, it's entry level for an adult. But when I think of entry level, and probably because I'm an elementary school teacher, I'm thinking, is this entry level? To me means it's a game that I could sit down with my students and introduce them and have them understand and play it reasonably, strategically. I honestly think for adults, yeah, it's entry level, but for kids, no.
No. I would have to agree. But anyway, that's what we think about Foundations of Rome. I am so happy to have this in the collection, and I don't mind lugging it somewhere.
It's a massive game. Honestly, I think it's about as big as our youngest grandchild.
I don't have a problem lugging this game to a board game meetup. Not all the time. Like, the older I get, I'm gonna have to, get one of them carts or something like that. But anyway, I enjoyed this game. And would you play this game some more with me?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what we think of Foundations of Rome. If you like the contents of this video, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, and I'm Dwayne.
I'm Alicia.
This is Blackboard Gaming.
We will see you next time.